Hi, I think. Just let me check that I am in the right place for Instagram. Yes, I'm reasonably in the right spot. How are you? How's your Monday going? Good? I hope it's going well. It's fine if it's not, but I hope it's going well. We're going to do a bit of meditation. This isn't a class, it's just a chance to meditate together. I do these meditations as part of the further emergence work I do, and if you're curious about that, I'll explain all about it when we're finished the meditation. I do them on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And on Wednesday and Friday we just meditate, but on Mondays I explain what I do, just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. So there's lots of different types of meditation. This is what I do. For me, it starts with why I would meditate. I'm trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go asleep. Not the dreaming bit, the bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming and then I drop at the bottom of dreaming into deep dreamless sleep, where I have no thoughts, no feelings, no emotions, no personality, no body really, no bed, no bedroom, no nothing. I don't even have me. I sort of cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register my existence. Which, when you add it all together, that sounds awful, doesn't it? That sounds like death. Yet, I love going to bed. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever I go to is a good place. And that's where I want to go to when I meditate. I just want to do it consciously. So if you're new to meditation, I would encourage you not to lie down when you're doing this. Because if you lie down and close your eyes, your body is going to think it's time for sleep. So you'll either battle sleep or you'll go asleep, both of which are not really what you want to be doing when you meditate. So yeah, sit up. You don't have to sit in a lotus position or anything like that, unless you're very comfortable sitting in a lotus position, in which case go for your life. But I'm just sitting in a chair. If you're sitting in a chair, make sure it's not a big comfortable armchair or you'll just be into the falling asleep bit. So as I said, there's no thinking in this place that I go to. It's almost like a place, it's like a room that I go into that my mind can't go into. It's almost like my mind has to wait outside the door. So from my mind's point of view, it's boring. Meditation is boring from my mind's point of view. So it's important to have my mind on board for meditation, or it's just going to keep knocking on the door all the time. It's going to do that anyway, but if you don't have your mind on board, it's going to be even worse. So having your mind on board is important. It doesn't really come in until you're having a long-term meditation practice. But so I'm not going to go into it too much now, because if this is the first time you've ever meditated, your mind will be on board because it's a new thing and minds like new things. So it'll be all like, yeah, meditation, great, let's do that. So having your mind on board is important. Next thing would be stop thinking, which is actually easier than it sounds, because regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thoughts, the structure of my thoughts, it's always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And when I say sound, I'm not talking about the external sound, I'm talking about the internal sound. You know, the conversations, the monologues, the little arguments I might be having with myself on the inside, or the commentary, the ongoing commentary, turning that off. So I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel with the intention of my meditation. So the intention of my meditation is to go to this, as I said, deep, still, profound, calm, Zen-like. I'm trying to think of the other words that people use to describe meditation. You know, that place. And then the practice of meditation starts pretty much as soon as I stop thinking. And it generally kind of goes, I'll turn off the pictures, I'll turn off the sound, I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will pass and I'll discover that I'm thinking again. I'll go, oh, I'm thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, I'm thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then a little bit more time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking again, and so on. Just repeatedly doing that. So it's pretty simple. Every time I discover that I'm thinking, I bring myself back to not thinking by turning off the pictures and turning off the sound. And it's important to know that thinking can happen when you're meditating. It's very easy to get the misconception that in order to meditate correctly, you shouldn't be thinking at all. Your mind should be like a big still pond. That's never been my experience. It's always the process of discovering that I'm thinking and bring myself back to not thinking. And if you do that, you're meditating perfectly. Okay? And there's no right amount of times that you should be doing that. Meaning, I only had to bring myself back from thinking a couple of times, so that's a better meditation than the one where I had to bring myself back from thinking a lot of times. No, it doesn't work like that. Because it changes day to day and hour to hour, you know. So you could meditate in the morning and you only might have to bring yourself back from thinking 20 or 30 times in 15 minutes. Then you could meditate in the same day in the afternoon and you might have to bring yourself back 200 or 300 times. One meditation is not better than the other. That's not the way it works. While I am doing all that, I'm also letting go of tension from my body. So how I'm doing that is I'm scanning my body with my intention, not my mind. With my intention, just slowly up and down. Anywhere I find tension, I let it go. And I use my out breath to let it go because it's very natural to just breathe away the tension. It's also a good way of remembering to breathe because it can be quite easy to hold your breath or to stop breathing altogether if you are so focused on thinking, not thinking. The other thing I do is, as I'm scanning my body with my intention, I'm spending a little bit more time on any structures in my body that go across my body. So mostly my body runs longitudinally, head to toe. Anywhere that goes across, any structures that go across, they operate a little bit like a log going across a stream. So they pick up the twigs and the branches and the leaves and anything else that's coming down the stream, except in my body, that's tension. So I spend a little bit more time on my eyes, they're transverse sight, my jaw, my tongue, my base of my neck, my shoulder girdle. All my joints are transverse sights as well, so my shoulder, elbow, wrists, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and my toes. It's really helpful to have a nice quiet room when you start out meditation because one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound. And as soon as you close your eyes to meditate, your hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room you have, the less things you'll be giving your mind, that will trigger thoughts. And then the other thing I do for that as well is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. I always do that. I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, but if you're new, this is the first time you've ever meditated, I'd encourage you to set yours for 5 minutes and then repeat that 3 times because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. Okay, I think I left something out, but I can't remember what it is, so we'll just go ahead. Let me set my timer. All right, off we go then, into the mystery. All right, that's time. Further emergence is to do with growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, that kind of growth. Because you keep growing your whole life. You know, your body's growing when you're an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. You only have to think about who you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You're different. That doesn't stop growing your whole life. And just like when you were a kid, then you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth in your body. You know, they're called growth spurts. You go through growth spurts on the inside as well. And they continue for your whole life as well. So the big difference between an inner growth spurt and a growth spurt in your body is, let's say you were having a growth spurt as a kid and you went to your parents and said, I've got some pains in my shins or something like that. Well, your parents wouldn't have brought you to hospital. They wouldn't have rushed you to hospital. They wouldn't have even called the doctor. They would have just said, oh yeah, that's growing pains. They're natural. It's unpleasant. It's difficult, but it'll pass. It's much different. It's much harder to know that when you're an adult. So when you're 45 and you're going through an inner growth spurt, or you're 65, or you're 25, or whatever, there's much bigger space to feel like there's something wrong with you. It's very hard to kind of go, oh, this is normal, this is natural, it'll pass. So further emergence is about supporting growth, inner growth, and then specifically to help with those times when the growing is more intense. So these meditations are part of that support, because the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to navigate the inner growth spurts. Then there's a retreat every month. That's a chance to meet other people or see other people who are going through the same kind of things you are, to do meditation, to get some questions, and you can see what they're like on either the YouTube channel or the podcast. You can listen to the podcast. I work with people one-to-one as well, and that's because the way inner growth spurts express themselves is different from person to person, so it's very feedback and support. And then I've written a couple of books. I've written 4 books about all this sort of general area of further emergence. So there's a lot there if you need it.